Hey everyone, welcome to Twisted Talks. I'm Josh,
I'm Tanya.
and this week, it is Tanya's week, so she's going to cover it's an Irish case, isn't it?
Yes, I am covering the case of Raonaid Murray. Uh,
Great. Now, a preface, how'd
a
you say it?
preface, a preface, a disclaimer. We are both in the
Dying sick.
depths of death. Like I have,
Tanya's chilling with her little glandular fever.
yeah, I've
I'm
glandular
chilling with,
fever.
I'd like to say a concoction of infections, to be honest, because I'm
Yeah,
thinking
Josh has.
chest and sinus.
He's got like a sinus infection, a chest infection,
Excuse
the
me.
infection of being alive, which I also have.
Yeah, that's the worst one.
I will say though, the like uh, for anyone who's had glandular fever, the swelling. Oh my good God, I've looked like I've had an alien growing out of the left side of my neck for the
Yeah, like
last
to be fair, when I
five
had it,
days.
like it was awful, but like my neck didn't swell that. I don't think it did anyway.
Oh no, Josh, like that's the only reason I thought to go to the doctor.
Yeah,
Um,
especially with your wisdom tooth. I was like, girl, get to the doctor
yeah,
because I was
because
told to go to A&E if that happened.
like it's been a great 2 weeks for me. My wisdom tooth, I had an infection in my wisdom tooth the week before last. No, last week, sorry. And then I had to leave work early on Monday this week to go to the doctor. That was a whole ordeal in and of itself. And then had to be signed off work for the week. And then the doctor rang me on Wednesday and he was like, "Yeah, you do have glandular fever." I was like, "Yeah, Patty, I know. I
It's
know."
like I feel it. I feel it.
But today now has been the first day. The swelling is starting to go down. My ears are still very affected. I hate that. It feels like there's a glass
Actually, while you're
over
mentioning
here.
ears,
Yes.
so not only do we have the chest and sinus infection, one of
Mhm.
my fucking ear piercings has decided, hey, I'm healed, but I feel like being spicy. Here's an ear piercing infection.
Nice. Nice. We love that.
Yeah.
Also, another disclaimer, guys, I got a dog. Her name
Mm.
is Daisy. She's fucking amazing, and she's keeping me company today because I'm recording from the comfort of my own bed, as is my God given right as a sick person
And
who
I am
doesn't feel well.
thrown on the couch in the sitting room because you won't have to worry about being deafened by my laughing if I'm in my room. You'll have to be worried about being deafened by the high-pitched scream of my cockatiel or the machine gun
Cockatiels.
sounding noises. No, I only have one
Cockatiels.
cockatiel.
Oh, what are the others?
Rio's the cockatiel, Sky is a budgie, and
Oh, yeah. Riki.
Riki.
Tiki.
Tiki is a kakariki.
I love that. Tiki the Kakariki.
Yeah, he's from New Zealand.
Oh, he's a spicy boy. Anyway.
Yeah. But anywho, yeah, multiple arrays of deafening noises would be from my
Like
bedroom.
Daisy's a good girl and Daisy doesn't bark, but you might hear her like sniffing and things. She's very curious. So, without further ado, let's get into today's case.
Right, take it away, my dude,
Okay.
my booty.
There will be many more tripping over of the words today, but anyway. So, Raonaid Murray was born on January 6th, 1982. She was the third child born to Jim and Deirdre Murray and had an older brother named Daniel and an older sister named Sarah. The family lived in Glenageary, South Dublin, and it was said that Raynard had done well in her junior cert, and after completing her leaving cert in June of 1999, she
Imagine that
began
she did our leaving cert when we were two.
when we were two. So after her leaving cert, she got a job and started working part time in a fashion boutique in Dunleary. She wanted to resit her leaving cert at the Institute of Education in Leeson Street with hopes of attending the arts faculty in University College Dublin when she
We
was
love
studying
the word faculty. It just tickles, it scratches something in my
faculty.
brain.
So she really wanted to study arts, and by all accounts, from what I've read, she was a very creative young girl. She enjoyed reading and poetry, and her favourite play was Under Milkwood by Dylan Thomas. She played the guitar, and she
Excuse me.
actually had aspirations of one day finding success as a professional writer. And she was also known for dressing in bright colours and wearing one very specific blue nose stud, which when I had my nose pierced first, I had a blue nose stud as well.
I
Um,
think it's almost ominous as well that like how you said she wanted, like she aspired, like she wanted to go into writing and like, obviously I assume be known for it.
yeah,
And then now obviously given what we're going to discuss and what you're going to tell me, because I have no knowledge of this case, but obviously led to a lot of people writing about it in articles. So she became the topic of writing,
Yeah, like
but
it.
unfortunately not as the author.
Yeah. Now, by all accounts, Raynid was a social butterfly. Her friends described her as someone that they knew they could go to for advice. She was always willing to listen. She was always willing to give advice to the best of her ability. And Raynid and her friends, as teenagers, called themselves the Dunleary Crew.
Love it.
Yeah, and they were
That
known.
reminds me the lads when we
Yeah,
lived in that other estate. You from
yeah,
watching something, your brother know about this actually. Used to
yeah.
always call themselves the Warriors
The Warriors. That was it.
after that
The
movie.
Warriors. Um, yeah, but the thing is, before the Warriors, this is concerning because we live in the south of Ireland. Now bear in mind these were children. I just want to give a disclaimer: these were children, like no more than 9, 10 years of age.
Literally.
No, we were 10, so they were no more than 7 or 8 years of age. They
Yeah.
used to call themselves the IRA.
Stop the lights. I
Yeah,
don't remember that.
there is spray paint around town. Like I could point it out to you that says the IRA or the IRA was here or something like that, and it was done by the boys, the
Oh,
Warriors.
that is awful. Well, I mean, like it's not awful in a traditional sense of fighting for Ireland's freedom, but it's
Yeah,
awful in the more innocent people being harmed by the
yeah.
other IRA.
Obviously, they were children; they didn't understand
Yeah,
anything like that.
exactly.
But
Children
yeah,
be
so
children.
then they were like, "Nah, we're the Warriors." Wow. So these guys,
Yeah.
these people called themselves the Dunleary Crew, and they were known for their more gothic and
It
grungy
sounds a
style.
bit more original.
Exactly. So they were known for their more like they had a more gothic and grungy style of dress, and of course, this being the 90s in Ireland, this kind of earned them the label of being goths. And
They were edgy.
yeah, so what I've actually written down is this earned them. Where am I? This earned them a label of being goths, of course, because Ireland in the 90s was a far cry from where we are today. Now I remember even when I was a kid, I was always a bit more of an alternative dresser as a kid. I was a bit grungier. Like Avril Lavigne was my fucking icon, so she was.
Who didn't love a bit of
Um,
Avril Lavigne or staring out the window pretending you're having some sort of crisis to Kelly Clarkson?
yeah, but like I even remember like,
Sometimes it wasn't pretending, but we move.
but we move. But I even remember like my nana and my dad and a couple of like older relatives and stuff would be like, Tanya, what are you wearing? You look like a goth. Like, what's wrong with that? Goths
Yeah, like
are
that's
cool.
not a bad thing. It's just a style.
It was just the judgment. Ireland was
Yeah,
very,
the old fashioned
was still very
mindset.
Catholic at the time. We hadn't had
We should have
a lot
been,
of,
well, not we, because I definitely would have gotten a few looks if I was wearing what I'm about to say. I'm like, you should have been wearing skirts down to your ankles,
yeah,
but not we, because then I'd have been like, Josh, what are you wearing?
Joshua. Um, but like Ireland in the 90s was still extremely Catholic. A lot of the stories of abuse and other things hadn't come out yet, to the
Yeah, and even
extent,
now, too, for the most part, Ireland is still Catholic enough
yeah,
for it to have a
still
hold
quite
over a
Catholic.
lot of people.
Like it's more so kind of our generation that wouldn't be very Catholic, and even at that, like I know quite a few people that would have been in my class in school that are still very religious and very Catholic, and that's
Yeah,
fine.
just not as
That,
prominent as
yeah,
the
like that's
generations
personal
before.
preference. But just for me personally, I never really related to Catholicism. Like I think I left it when I was like 14.
Look, we know we only got communion and confirmation for the money.
Yeah, for me it was
Let's
just
not
rest.
lie. That's
I
90% of Irish people.
Yeah, but
Well,
anyway,
Irish
sorry,
youths.
Irish youths, the
The young
sun,
ones.
young ones, young ones. So Raynid often stuck out amongst her friends because, as I said, she loved to wear bright colours. And now they enjoyed listening to Nirvana and grunge artists. And while Raynid enjoyed this music, she was also a massive George Michael fan.
So if she was wearing lots of colourful stuff as well, would it have been more of a like, would it be goth or would it be emo?
She would have been classed as more emo, I suppose.
Somewhere in the middle, floating around.
Which I don't even think emo is really a term anymore, but I think it was more the fact that like this group was just her tribe of people and she got on really well with them and nobody really cared if she dressed a bit different or if she
They were
wanted.
their own high vibe tribe.
Exactly, like they didn't care if she didn't dress exactly like them. They didn't care if she didn't religiously listen to the same music as them. Like, it seemed like it was a genuine
friendships.
true blue group where they were all just there to support each other and just be friends. Now, where am I? Yes. The Dunleary crew kept quite a low profile, and they preferred to spend their time together kind of chilling out, talking about their lives and their love lives and any problems they were facing. Their favourite spot was a local beach that had ruins known as the Temple. This was at Black Rock. I'm not sure if it's the beach or the ruins that were closed to the public, but some part of it was closed to the public. So it was very rare that anyone would kind of come across them while they were, there doing whatever they were doing.
Yeah, like the old convent.
Yeah, it was just a place that they were kind of free to carry on however they wanted to. Now, within the group, there was some kind of underlying tension. I think it's kind of the same in every group. There's always one or two people that don't really fit the best, or that have their own issues that they bring into the group.
Yeah, there's always some bit of drama, especially when you're younger.
Exactly. Like, these were all 17, 18-year-olds.
It's part of growing up.
Exactly.
Some people don't, but it's supposed to be part of it.
Exactly. Now, one girl in the group was described by others as psychotic and very jealous of the other girls. Now, everyone was cautious of her due to her violent temper, but nobody really took her rage all too seriously either. So it sounds like she wasn't really a threat, but more of a nuisance.
And this was someone else in the group, is it?
Someone else that was part of the group, because it was quite a large group. Now, the group did kind of splinter off a little bit once they all finished secondary school, as you do.
Standard.
These things do happen, especially with quite a large group. But that was kind of that for the bit about kind of her friends and her family and things. Now, I know she was very, very close to her family, and they just seemed to have a very tight-knit family unit. Now, on the morning of September 3rd, 1999, Raonaid actually slept in, and she was absolutely devastated because she had been supposed to register for her course in Dublin city centre.
Oh no, and she missed the deadline.
Well, no. However, when she called the Institute of Education, she was relieved to find out that she would be able to go in and sign her registration forms on Monday, which would have been I believe the 6th of September.
Okay, so
September.
So it was still working out.
Because the only reason she couldn't go to the college was because she had work at 1 p.m. and by the time she woke up, she wouldn't have had time to go and sign and then come back for work. So after finding out that she could, in fact, just sign her forms on Monday, Raonaid headed off to work. She took her break at 4:40 p.m.
And what age was she at this point?
She was about 17 or 18.
Okay.
She was quite young. I think she was 17. I'm pretty sure she was 17. But basically, she took her hour-long break and she ended up catching up with a good friend of hers who ended up walking her back to work, where she then helped her mother to choose an outfit for her father's birthday. Now, her mother later said, "That Friday, I left work early and I called into the shop, and it is a treasured memory for me. I was very lucky to have this time with her, so I called into the shop. And it was very quiet because it was around tea time and we had a lovely time. We said goodbye and her last words to me were, 'Bye, Mum, I'll see you later,' and I went off and never saw her alive again."
And so the place where her mum went to look for something clothes-wise was actually where Raonaid worked.
Was where Raonaid worked. I don't think I actually mentioned this. Raonaid worked in a shop called Sally West in a shopping centre in Dublin.
Okay.
After work, Raonaid was supposed to go babysitting, but that was cancelled, so she decided to go out with friends. She had finished work at Sally West at about 9 p.m. and
Jesus, late one.
Yeah, so shortly after, while she was packing up at work, the strap on her handbag broke. So she borrowed, I believe it was a Sally West carrier bag from her manager to replace her bag that had broken so she could continue to carry her stuff. And she then went and met her friends for a few hours at Scott's Pub on Georgia Street. Now, at around 11:20 that night, she left to go home and change her clothes and collect money because she had made plans to meet up with her friends again at around, sorry, I can't actually remember what time, but they were meant to meet again later at paparazzi's nightclub.
And
So
that was the same night, so obviously they were meeting up quite late if she finished work at 9.
yeah, so I want to say they were due to meet at midnight, but I'm not 100% on that, so take that with a pinch of salt. Now, the walk from Scott's pub, which was on Georgia Street, to get home would have only taken her 15 minutes. Now,
Oh, very close then.
it's a walk she was very familiar with, and as she had grown up in the area, she knew all the shortcuts, all the walkways, all of that. My house is making a weird noise. Sorry. But anyway. It's a tractor. Sorry.
It's not the microphone's not picking it up anyway. I can't hear anything.
That's fine. Now, as it was quite warm that night, Raonaid chose to drape her jacket over her arm instead of wearing it. Now, the walk should have only been 15 minutes, as I said.
Yeah.
Raonaid's friend.
Basically, it's like walking from town to mine kind of a thing.
Yeah. Now, Raonaid's friend rang Raonaid's house at around midnight to inform Raonaid of a change in plans. But when Raonaid's dad answered, she was embarrassed to realise that she had woken him up, so she hung up. Unfortunately, all he would have been able to tell her was that Raonaid wasn't home yet. Now, 20 minutes later, at 20 minutes past midnight, Sarah Murray, who was Raonaid's older sister, arrived home with 2 of her friends, totally unprepared for what she was about to discover. Her little sister's bloodied body was lying just 50 yards away from their family home.
Oh my God.
50 yards, Josh. Like, I honestly was so upset writing this part. Now, Sarah rushed into the house, grabbed her parents. They all came running back out just minutes later and ran to Raonaid, but sadly nothing could be done to save her. The injuries that she had sustained were too severe and she was already dead.
Fuck. That's so sad.
Give me a minute, I'm emotional. So Gardaí were called to the scene and immediately conducted a search of the area, but the crime scene yielded very few clues pertaining to the identity of Raonaid's murderer. But there was a large amount of blood on a patch of grass near the footpath, which led them to conclude that she was attacked there. And then a trail of blood was found showing that Raonaid had made an attempt to get herself home where she knew she would be safe. And the trail showed that she had made it 200 feet before collapsing, just past the entry to the shortcut that she had used to get home. So the blood was within that shortcut, the trail of blood and the large amount of blood that was found. So she was stabbed inside the alleyway, we'll call it, and then managed to get 200 feet away before she ultimately died, I'm assuming from blood loss.
Yeah.
Now, she was found fully dressed, still clutching her Sally West bag, which still contained all of her belongings. And so the Gardaí...
So no signs of SA.
Yeah, so the Gardaí believe the attack wasn't random, it wasn't motivated by robbery, and it wasn't motivated by sexual assault.
Yeah, because nothing was taken, I'm assuming, and also
her clothes weren't disturbed. Like,
oh, I think I see where this is going.
I hope you do, because I fucking don't. Now,
I have a suspect in my head.
Oh, lovely. Now, I reckon you have the same suspect in your head that I do. The entire community mourned alongside the Murray family. Everyone wondering the same thing. How could something so horrendous happen within their community? How could it happen to someone as young, bright, and beloved as Raonaid? And to this day, it's not known who killed Raonaid Murray.
Oh, it's still not solved.
No, this is unsolved. I should have said that at the start. Sorry, guys, brain's not functioning. But let's get into some facts. Okay, so these are the facts that I've been able to gather regarding the case. So there are reports that about 25 minutes after leaving Scott's pub, Raonaid was seen arguing with a man in his mid-20s in the laneway between Silchester Road and Silchester Park. Now, if this is true, why did it take her 25 minutes to make it to that point when it should have only taken her 15 minutes to walk home? Because it's believed that she was killed shortly after midnight. So it took her a much longer time to get home than it should have. Now, a passing motorist also stated that she saw Raonaid walking along Corrig Road with a young man at around 11:53 p.m. Now, she said she took note because it appeared that the young man was harassing Raynid and hassling her. But overall,
So that's like now 2 witness accounts of a young man.
Now, this motorist wasn't very concerned overall because it appeared to her that Raynid knew this man and had managed to get rid of him by darting a few steps ahead of him. Now, this man was described as being in his early 20s, around 5'10" in height, with sandy-coloured hair that appeared to be styled in a messy way. He was wearing light-coloured cargo pants and a beige sweater or jumper, whatever you want to call it, from wherever you're from. At 12:03, Raynid was spotted again, this time alone at the top of Lower Glenageary Road and Corrig Road. This location was only a 7-minute walk from Scott's pub, and there is no known reason as to why this walk took her over 40 minutes. Shortly after midnight, a group of friends who were hanging out in their back garden heard a female voice shouting things like, "Go away, leave me alone, and fuck off." Now, it was a very firm fuck off, they said, followed by a scream. Then it all stopped and they left it at that. I suppose they probably assumed it was a girlfriend fighting with her boyfriend or something. And
Meanwhile, it's possible the scream was getting stabbed.
Yeah, which I like to think that if I heard someone screaming, "Leave me alone, go away, fuck off," and then shouting, "Leave me alone, go away, fuck off," and then next thing I hear a scream, I would like to think that I would at least go and see what's going on and call the relevant services.
Yeah, exactly, depending on what you find. Even, to be honest, if I repeatedly heard someone saying, "Leave me alone, go away, fuck off," and they were clearly having to repeat it, so it wasn't working, that would be enough for me to want to pop my head around and be like, what's going on?
What's going on? Now, the shortcut that Raynid took to get home was via Silchester Crescent. This was a tree-lined path with very dense foliage and branch cover, and it was also dimly lit, so all of this provided perfect cover for the killer to get away unseen.
Yeah.
Raynid was stabbed over 30 times, with most of the wounds being superficial and barely breaking the skin. But 4 were deep enough to have killed her, and this was 1 in her side, 1 in her chest, 1 in her shoulder, and 1 in her armpit. And it was determined that the type of knife used was either a butcher's knife or a catering knife. It had a double-edged blade of about 6 inches in length.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Defensive marks on Raynid's left arm indicated that she had fought for her life and tried to fend off her attacker. Because of the attacker's position in relation to Raynid, it is believed they were likely to be covered in Raynid's blood. Now, this might pique your interest if you have the same suspect that I do. Female DNA was found under Raynid's fingernails, but this was dismissed as she worked in a woman's boutique and it was in contact with female customers regularly throughout the day.
Okay, but why would their DNA be under your fingernails?
Exactly. So that's that. Now, a woman
from Wyoming.
Yeah, a woman living on Silchester Road came forward to say that she had seen a man in his early 20s with neat, short hair, wearing a long-sleeved shirt, running away from the laneway in which Raynid had been murdered at around the time of the murder. Later, a woman described as being between 16 to 23 years old with dark shoulder-length hair was seen near the location of Raynid's murder not long before she was discovered. The Gardaí investigated Raynid's friends, both as a whole and individually, and one of Raynid's closest school friends later said, quote, "They acted in a way that I found to be accusatory, and in instances felt a little, well, what did you kids expect since you're all that sort? I'm certain it was a hard job for those guards and likely a first experience of this kind of investigation. But I also felt that things I was concerned about and questions I had from knowing her and our group were treated dismissively." Now, a lot of podcasts that I've listened to and a lot of things that I've read on this case have kind of said that the guards jumped the gun a bit with her friends. They were very prejudiced against her friends because they were classed as goths.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Which certainly didn't help the investigation in the fucking
It
slightest.
profiled them basically,
Yeah.
but in a biased way.
Yeah, but anyway, look, we move. One person in the group that caught the Gardaí's interest was the girl branded as psychotic that I mentioned earlier. As I said, she was known to be jealous of others and she had family ties to the IRA. Due to the amount of superficial cuts, police had to speculate that a woman could possibly be involved. This woman had never been identified, but the theory was, this is terrible, because she had no name and I didn't want to get confused, I have been calling her IRA girl.
Okay, fair.
Because she's got family ties to the IRA and I didn't know what else to call her, okay?
Actually, why wasn't she named if they know who she is?
Because at the time she was a minor.
Oh, okay, fair.
So 1 second, I need to hydrate. Now, the theory was IRA girl had a boyfriend who was obsessed with Raonaid, and out of jealousy, she killed her. However, both her and her boyfriend denied any involvement in the murder, and IRA girl's DNA didn't match the DNA under Raonaid's fingernails.
And is this the same girl you mentioned earlier that was a bit like weird and like one of the odd ones in the group?
Psychotic, jealous of all the other girls, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so they denied involvement, her DNA didn't match the DNA under Raonaid's nails. However, Raonaid's friends stated that the girl was around the night of Raonaid's death, and that she was actually the first one to call around the Dunleary crew the next morning to let them know about Raonaid's death. And while the timeline is admittedly blurry, and while it was known that a body had been found at that time, it wasn't until later that day when the body was confirmed to be Raonaid.
Yeah, so how did she know?
Exactly. Now, IRA girl apparently left Ireland a year after the murder and still lives abroad, but she does come back to Dublin every now and then to catch up with the old Dunleary crew. Now, another person that Raonaid's friends told the Gardaí about was a young man that had danced with Raonaid in Paparazzi's nightclub at the end of July, which was about 7 weeks before Raonaid's murder. They said he made them uneasy and that none of them knew him. They described him as being in his late teens or early 20s, slender and with short and spiky sandy-coloured hair.
That matches one of the descriptions.
It does. Now, on that night in the club, he was wearing light-coloured combat trousers and reading glasses, which he wore on top of his head. Raonaid left the club with him, and they were later seen in an abracadabra by her friends. They were overheard speaking about music and seemed to have hit it off really well. Her friends assumed that he was a student who lived locally and noted that he spoke with a posh accent and he looked very refined.
And this was their interaction the 7 weeks beforehand?
Yes. Now, Raonaid left the abracadabra with him, and then later that night, she showed up to a friend's house in a very agitated state. She didn't want to expand or elaborate on why she was agitated, but she said that someone had followed her. Raonaid was actually so spooked by this that she refused to leave that friend's house until there was a taxi outside waiting to take her home, and she never spoke of the incident again.
That's very weird.
Police thought that it was very significant that Raonaid was spotted with a man fitting the description of this guy moments before her death. Now, I know that the hairstyles are different, but your hair can grow quite a bit between July and September.
Yeah, and as well, when what happened, it was dark.
Exactly.
So, there's going to be slight inconsistencies and differences in people's descriptions when everyone's eyesight can be different, distance, how far away you are, all those kind of things add up and make a difference to what you think you can see versus what is actually there.
Exactly. So investigators believed that Raonaid met this man in the laneway that night, and they released 2 composite sketches, one fitting the messy hair description and one fitting the spiky hair description. Now, there was also a taxi driver came forward who was working in the area on the night of the murder, and he reported picking up a young man who had blood on his trousers. He said he took the fare in the early hours of that Saturday morning at the shopping centre where Raonaid worked, not far from Scott's pub. The man was described as being between 20 and 30 years old and had short brown hair. He didn't quite fit the description of the guy with the messy hairstyle, and investigators were convinced that this was someone else. Now, the taxi driver said that he really remembered this ride because of the man's strange behaviour. As soon as he got in, he gave the driver an address on Granville Road at the top of Newtown Park Avenue in Blackrock. He told the driver that he had spent the evening at Scruple's nightclub and that he just wanted to get home before his girlfriend did. Now, a couple of minutes into the drive, he changed his mind and gave the driver a different address. He went on to give incoherent directions, giving another route that took the taxi in circles, much further than it would have been had he gone directly. The passenger wasn't drunk, and his sudden change didn't make much sense to the driver. Now, the address where the man got out was only a short walk from the first address that he had given when he first got into the taxi. And the driver said that after he had dropped the man off, he saw him hiding behind a hedge, like he was waiting for the taxi driver to be out of sight before he went into his house or made another move. The driver turned around at the end of the road, and when he passed the house on his way back, the man was gone. So he had no idea which house this man got into, but he knew the road.
Yeah.
Police ended up conducting door-to-door interviews after receiving this information, but nobody fitting the description lived at the address the taxi driver was told.
Could have just lived nearby, or been getting collected by someone else, or got another taxi from there. If it was someone covering their tracks about something, whether it was Raonaid or someone else.
Exactly. Now, the people who actually did live in that house, where the man gave the address for that he told the taxi driver he lived at, they also did not know anyone fitting the description and said no one called around that time on that night. Police ended up releasing a composite sketch of this man, and multiple witnesses came forward saying that they had seen him at Scruple's nightclub on the night of the murder. However, nobody was able to identify him. Later on in the investigation, police were able to track him down. Now, at the time of the murder, he was living on the other side of Newtown Park Avenue, not far from the scene where Raonaid had met her killer. Tracing the route the taxi was instructed to take, investigators established that they drove past the man's apartment to get to the address in Granville Estate where he was dropped off. When Gardaí eventually caught up with him, he was living in the inner city of Dublin. The taxi driver was asked to identify him and confirmed that he was without a doubt the strange passenger that he had on the night of Raonaid Murray's murder. His identity has not been made public, so I'm just going to call him the taxi guy. So he was a young man in his 20s. I'm after losing my place. Hold on.
I feel that.
In his 20s who worked as a chef. When Gardaí found him, he had a kitchen knife on his person. He was a heroin user and was said to have a violent temper.
He was the what worker?
He was a chef. He was a heroin user.
Oh, heroin user.
Yes, and he was said to have a violent temper. He had a criminal record, which did include a sexual assault charge after a violent encounter with a young woman outside a nightclub in Wicklow. Years later, an investigator who worked on the case came out and said that the taxi guy was known to Raonaid's inner circle. He was questioned, but there was no evidence to link him to Raonaid's murder. He also had an alibi of sorts. There was no really, cell phones weren't really used by everyone at the time. Most phone calls were made from home lines, and at the time of Raonaid's murder, a call was made from his apartment. Now, although it's hardly, I wouldn't say it's watertight, it's airtight, anything of the sort, but it was enough to cast doubt, so the guards couldn't arrest him. Now, it's not clear exactly when this call was made, seeing as though the man wasn't actually home until close to 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Now, the taxi guy had spent some time in jail for unrelated charges and made an alleged jailhouse confession. A fellow inmate told the Gardaí, I don't know why I said Gardaí that way, told the Gardaí that the taxi guy had told him he had murdered Raonaid because she did not want to have sex with him. However, the taxi guy denied ever saying it, and there was no proof whether the confession held any weight or not.
And just to double confirm, that taxi guy, we're calling the passenger the taxi guy, not actually the taxi driver.
Yes, the taxi passenger.
We're on about the heroin using chef with the knife.
Yeah, we'll call him the chef going forward. Now, one thing that I did kind of write down here was, now this is a direct quote, cannot remember what article this is from. It's very short. I'm just going to read it out as it is.
It'll be in the resources anyway.
I think it's from the evidence locker, I think is what it's called. Yeah, the evidence locker. Another fact that made Gardaí look bad in hindsight was the fact that they were hell-bent on closing the case before the National Bureau of Investigation could. Because of this, information was not freely shared between departments and communication was not as transparent as it should have been. So basically, what I'm taking from that is that the guards rushed this way too much in the most vital stages.
Yeah, okay.
And that's all I'm going to say. Now, there are a few other suspects mentioned. I am just going to read that from the evidence locker. So there was another chef who was considered to be a possible suspect because he had a keen interest in martial arts and was known to own a collection of samurai swords and other blades. Officers also discovered a very disturbing collection of violent pornography, including images of bestiality.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh. Disgusting.
Daisy, cover your ears.
You don't need to hear this, baby. However, the cook was able to give a very credible alibi, and so the Gardaí were forced to admit that he could not have committed the murder.
Okay.
Another person of interest was a man who worked at a local hotel who had had a couple of brushes with the law. Now, all of these brushes with the law involved acts of violence against women.
Okay.
Now, when questioned, he said he didn't know Raonaid, but her friend said the two of them had met before. However, either way, there was no evidence placing him near the
Yeah,
murder.
and it's like, you know, could have been lying because he was involved, could have been lying because even if he said he could have been like, well, if I say I know her and then they look at my criminal history, they're immediately going to try and put it on me.
Yeah, exactly. Now, there was also a barman who knew Raonaid. Now, this fella had been arrested previously for threatening his girlfriend at knife point. Now, that was in the years after Raonaid's murder.
So it wasn't proceeding, it was afterwards.
It was afterwards, and he was questioned in connection with Raonaid.
Or wait, does proceeding mean afterwards?
No, if it precedes... I don't know. I don't care about words.
But anyway, you knew what I meant.
So he admitted that he knew Raonaid from around the social scene in Dunleary, but had never had any personal contact with her. And when guards tried to find a link between them, they weren't able to.
Okay, so wasn't looking like he might have had anything to do with it.
Yeah. Now, there was a local butcher.
Okay.
He confessed to killing Raonaid after a night of heavy drinking. He also had tendencies towards women, but there wasn't enough evidence to charge him. And
I love how, well, I know obviously you need evidence because sometimes people, for some fucking fucked up reason, confess to committing murders and crimes they did not commit. But, like, I also think there needs to be, like, I don't know. Because, like, what happens when someone confesses and they genuinely did do it, but you still can't find anything?
You just have to deal with it, I suppose. Like, you have to have evidence, I suppose. But this is, so the last kind of thing I'm going to touch on here with potential suspects, and I think this is so interesting, okay? You might recognize this name. Another man who implicated himself was Farah Swaleh Noor.
Don't know it.
Farah Swaleh Noor was a Kenyan immigrant who eventually became the victim of a brutal murder himself.
Oh.
The infamous Scissor Sisters case.
Oh, yes!
Linda and Charlotte Millhall murdered him, claiming that he had threatened their mother.
Yeah. Now I know the name.
But basically, during a drunken argument, he had screamed at their mother, "I'm going to fucking kill you, just like I did with Raonaid Murray."
Oh.
Now, Kathleen Mulhall, who was Linda and Charlotte's mother and was Farah's partner, told Gardaí that he had said it to her twice, at least 2 occasions, that he had murdered Raonaid. She said he told her that Raonaid was a friend of an ex-girlfriend and that he had stabbed her in a laneway with a knife. Now, he was taken in for questioning as soon as the Gardaí received the tip. Investigators concluded that he did in fact say it, but that he was a fantasist. He knew Raonaid, yes, but he was not her killer. He only said that to instill fear in his girlfriend.
Yeah, okay.
Now, the investigation, it just didn't go anywhere. Now, over the years, there's been more than 100 members of the Garda Síochána assigned to the case. By 2008, which was nearly 10 years later, 3,500 people had been interviewed, 12 arrests had been made, DNA was taken from 50 women, none matched the DNA found on Raonaid's fingernails, and eventually over 200 people would become persons of interest, but no one has ever been charged. A Garda cold case review flagged 22 people who could possibly have been responsible for Raonaid's murder, and this was called a list of red alert suspects. Now, every year, Raonaid's family and the guards make sure that the case features in the press, asking the public to come forward with any information that they may have. And the photo of her that is used is actually the photo that I sent you, and it's made her one of the most recognizable faces in Ireland. I remember seeing it in newspapers growing up. And in a recent appeal, a Garda spokesperson said, and this is a direct quote again, "Many who were then Raonaid's age are now parents themselves with children, some of which would now be close to Raonaid's age, and we would ask them to reflect now, with the benefit of maturity and hindsight, on any information which may be of assistance to the investigation." On the 5th anniversary of Raonaid's death, there was an anonymous letter sent to her family. This person expressed their condolences and then said that they knew who the murderer was.
And what was this, in a letter?
In a letter. And according to the person who wrote this letter, the Gardaí had questioned him early on in the investigation and dismissed him without ever considering him to be guilty. The guards traced this letter back to the taxi passenger, the chef.
Oh.
Now, they took him in for questioning, and after many hours of questioning, they concluded that he had written the letter in an attempt to cast the light of suspicion away from himself. Despite extensive questioning, there was no new information, and they still did not have enough evidence to arrest him. And
yeah, sounds like the taxi passenger to me.
Beyond that, the case, it hasn't really gone anywhere, Josh. It's so sad.
Yeah, I feel like obviously it's a horrible thing to lose someone, especially in those circumstances, but also to never know who did it, and for for justice to not be served.
I'm sorry, I have one more quote, that I want to read. It's from her dad. So this is on the 20th anniversary of Raonaid's death in 2019. Her father, Jim Murray, was appealing to the public for help once again, and he said, quote, "Our beautiful child died on the pavement with no loving, caring person there to help or comfort her. To her killer we say, come out from the shadows and own up to what you have done. Do the right thing, confess your crime. Raonaid died alone and frightened. Her killer is free. For Raonaid's sake, help find her murderer and get the justice for her that she deserves."
Yeah.
And then there's just a quote from her favourite play, and from what I'm assuming is her favourite poem as well.
Very sad, and especially to not know, and it's so, what, 2019 was 20 years, so what, 23 years now?
Yeah, and she had her whole life ahead of her, Josh. The poor girl was 2 days away from registering for college, and if she slept in that morning, she would have been able to register that morning. And it's just so many what ifs. What if she hadn't slept in that morning? What if the babysitting gig hadn't gotten cancelled? What if she hadn't gone to Scott's pub? What if someone had walked home with her? And Like, I know you shouldn't sit there and think about the what ifs because it's not going to change anything, but it's
But
just
I think everyone ends up thinking, what if, for maybe not forever, but at least sits down with it and goes, what if, a few times. And I feel like for a lot of people, you have to kind of do the what ifs with certain situations
yeah,
to kind of process what's going on and then be
yeah,
like, okay, I can't keep doing this anymore.
yeah. Like, I think it definitely helped me with this case, because I think the reason that I found this case so kind of like, obviously they're all heartbreaking, they're all gut wrenching, but this one really tore me up. And I think most of it was the fact that it was her older sister that found her, and obviously I have a
Yeah,
sister. I don't know what the fuck I would do if I came home and Maeve was in that situation. Like, it would absolutely break me. Like
yeah.
just her family is so strong, and they just seem to have such a genuine love for each other, and they just seem to support each other so well throughout all of this. Daisy, don't be dramatic.
What was she doing?
Growling at,
Oh,
at raindrops on the window.
oh, extra.
Um, fucking yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No, it is
horrendous.
very, and it just amazes me, like, that there's still been no more, like, no one caught, or
Yeah, no new information, no new leads. Like, we still don't know what happened to her.
like,
Now,
people have to know. Someone has to know something, even if it's not the murderer, someone else has to know something.
yeah, like, I personally think that the taxi passenger he seems very, very suspicious to me.
Yeah.
Um, and he would have had access to the murder weapon,
I'm
and
like, with him, I'm like, I don't know whether to say, like, is it him? Is he guilty? Or is he just extremely mentally ill and unstable?
because of, yeah, and as well he's
Because I'm like, why would you bother? Like, you had been interviewed and, let go without charges. So why would you then send a letter to, that could possibly, even if your intention isn't for it to be traced back to you, it is possible, and it was. Why would you even bother unless, one, you did it and you want to get caught?
mm,
Two, you didn't do it and you're just looking for some sort of attention. Three, you did do it and you're just really, really fucking stupid.
yeah. I don't know, like, he just sticks out to me.
But yeah, like, but the only, like, I'm on the same page as you with that. He sticks out to me as well. The only, my theory, when I said, ages back, well, not ages back, earlier on the podcast episode,
Yeah,
when I had said, oh, I think I have a suspect, I was on about the friend in the group, the female.
she was my first suspect as well.
Yes. But then
Um,
when we got to the taxi passenger chef heroin using guy, I was like, okay, he, like you said, would have access to that kind of knives, and he was very odd that night, things like that. So
yeah,
now towards the end of this case, I'm more pointing towards him.
I would be inclined to agree, and I think especially when he was a known heroin user, like, the way that shit affects your brain,
Yeah,
absolutely crazy. Like, he wouldn't have even realized what he was doing
it's
most of the
very
time.
possible. Yeah, might not have realized what he was doing, might have known full well what he was doing and not given a fuck
Exactly.
because
For all
his
we know, he
his
might not have
mental
taken heroin.
capacity was compromised.
Exactly. But
Or I could just be a
just
psychopath, but who knows?
my heart just really goes out to her family. Like, it's been, what did we say, 23,
Three.
and they just still have no justice.
Yeah.
No justice for their daughter and their sister and their loved one.
And
And
I think the worst thing about it is, like, as well, like, when you see a case like this, it also, it also kind of is a reminder as well that the worst thing about it is they're also not the only ones.
no,
There's, like, if you, like, I don't even want to think about how many unsolved cases there is where people
yeah,
still have no answers about what happened to someone in their family. And in some of them, there hasn't even been a body.
exactly, exactly. Like, there's plenty out there where they've had nothing, nobody to bury. Like, it's just, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. I'm still actually following. There's construction work going on in Cork at the moment. I want to say in Youghal, but I'm not sure. But I think they found a skeleton.
They did between y'all. It's somewhere in between y'all and the city, I think, somewhere like in the
Yeah.
middle. I can't remember the name of the area, but it's not the first time they found a body in that area either.
No, it's not. And I'm sure it's not the first one they found recently either. But I don't know why, but my brain was just like, it's Tina Satchwell.
You're not the only one that thought that, but it actually turned out to be a baby.
No.
Yeah, it was the toddler.
Oh, Josh, that's awful. Oh my God. Okay, I've
Yeah,
clearly
but a
sleeping
lot of
off.
people thought what you thought, even because
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that person that had gone missing.
Yeah.
But when I said about that article when I first saw it, I said it to Mum, and she was thinking she thought the same as well. A lot of
Yeah.
people did, but double check it. But as far as I know, because I did follow it for a while, because I was like, it's also very strange that it's not the first time a body's been found in that area. I was like, is it a reach to say we're going in a serial killing direction? Do you know? But I'm pretty sure I read an update on it, and it was said that the
Oh,
remains
the
were the remains of a
baby.
toddler.
Oh my God. It says here, Gardaí discovered the skeletal remains of a baby in Cork after receiving a confidential tip.
Yeah,
Officers attached to Middleton made the grim discovery last week in Clee.
that's the
Clee?
one.
Clay?
I haven't a notion.
Oh,
Yours is as good as mine, and I guess at pronouncing that.
oh no, that's so
I'd say,
sad.
oh, do you know what it probably is? Killa.
Cla. Yeah, it's Eagh.
That sounds like an Irish
Yeah.
pronunciation.
Cla.
But
Mm,
yeah. So with that positive news, I guess we should wrap up.
yeah. I need to ring
But
my boss back.
I
Let her
actually must
know
ring mine as well.
I lived.
I tried to ring earlier, and she tried to ring me back while we were recording.
Yeah, so did Gina. Gina tried to ring me as Justin was reaching in the window for his fucking speaker, thinking he
Oh,
was
is
being
that
all
what he was doing?
stealthy.
Is that why
Yeah.
Daisy was like, "What's going on?"
I was like, what are you doing? He was like, I'm being stealthy. I was like, no, you're not.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can edit that out, and if not, everyone can just
Please.
enjoy the chaos that is us.
Yeah, and my dog fucking barking at him as if she doesn't know him.
So I just said I
And
better
he's like,
drop that. I'm gonna try and edit it out in case people are like, "What are you on about? That didn't happen."
yeah.
Because I'm not editing this part out.
No.
The actual thoughts of editing
Oh,
make me want to go to sleep for the next week.
how long are we on? We're on 55 minutes and 20
55 minutes, and I will be knocking off the first 5.
Yeah, because that's just us chatting shit.
That's literally just us chatting. So, anyway, guys, we're doing it again, just chatting. So,
Yeah.
thanks for
But I'm gonna
listening,
cut it short because I need to call my boss and let her know I am alive.
and very much the same here. And I also need to do something else I actually can't remember. But anywho, thank you guys for listening once again. We hope you enjoyed the case as much as you can enjoy something of this nature.
Exactly.
And let us know your theories, what you think, who you think did it. Twisted Talks Pod on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. We're on Twitter. I never post on it, so I wouldn't really bother following it, to be honest.
Oh my gosh, my boss has been trying to ring me for 25 minutes. I gotta go.
Should try again.
No, but she sent me a message 25 minutes ago.
Girl,
I'm gonna lose my job.
say you're not going to lose your job. You're signed off. You're fine. Tell your anxiety to get back in its box, or I'll give it a
Nah,
slap.
she's probably just checking on me, bless her. But I'm going to go. I need to ring her back.
Say goodbye.
Goodbye,
Good friends, goodbye. That's on Disney Plus now, just saying.
Stop. No, don't be telling me that.
But anywho, right, okay, enough babbling. Ciao for now, guys, and we will see you next week for the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Long.